Welcome to Getting Dirty Live with Brian Douglas, broadcasting from the Midwest Racing Radio Network and the Five Wives Vodka Studios in Fargo, North Dakota, on this local station and around the world across the internet on the Midwest Racing Radio Network website. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the only host who's ever had the need for speed more than once, Brian Douglas.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Getting Dirty Live right here on the Midwest Racing Radio Network. The guest I have for us today is the PR director for the Upper Midwest Sprint Series, Greg Parent. We'll get to him in just a moment, right after this.
This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
Logistics in today's competitive business environment has everyone looking for ways to increase savings, improve quality, and increase customer satisfaction. The logistics behind your freight transportation can impact these goals significantly. That's why you need to work with a logistics service provider that has strong, reliable resources. A company that can deliver your freight on time, intact, at competitive prices while keeping you informed along the way. DLS Worldwide is that company. They say it's your freight, your goals with our resources. No matter if you build race cars, rear ends, distribute tires, oil, or build engines. By calling DLS Worldwide, you'll most likely save money, time, and stress. Believe me, that's something we all could use. Contact DLS Worldwide by calling Matt at 866-940-6321. Again, 866-940-6321.
This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
And welcome back. This is Midwest Racing Radio Network. I'm Brian Douglas, and you're on Getting Dirty Live. The guest I have this segment is Greg Parent, the PR director for the Upper Midwest Sprint Car Series. And Greg, you probably would do a better job at introducing yourself than I would, so I'll let you go ahead and explain what you do for the UMSS and go from there.
As Brian said, my name is Greg Parent. I'm media director for the Upper Midwest Sprint Car Series. I handle all their PR work and assist them in many different functions at the track, including assisting track announcers and help with scoring and various related series of events. And basically just kind of a go-to guy when it comes to technical questions as far as rules and stuff like that. I carry the manual along and have had to open it up on occasion and do their point standings, maintain their website, their Facebook page, and their various press releases.
All right, Greg. Sounds like you are constantly busy with this series. You don't just have one series; you have three of them within the UMSS envelope.
Yes, Brian. Back in 2008, Ron Bernhagen and Joe Kuba got together and started the Upper Midwest Sprint Car Series. First, it was just on paper. In 2009, we actually introduced our first division, the winged sprint car division, essentially a 360 cubic inch engine in the car. And then we went a couple of years, and there were some car owners in the area that were kind of clamoring, let's do a non-winged series. And, of course, you tried to get the winged car owners or drivers interested to pull the wings off. That wasn't happening. So Ron and Joe and a couple other guys got together and said, what can we do to bring non-winged racing here in around the Twin City metropolitan area in Minnesota, west central Wisconsin area? And by golly, they came up with well, Brian, there's no such thing as affordable in racing in the same sentence necessarily, but they got a somewhat economical engine package in place. Basically, we have a lot of B-mods and Midwest modifieds that run around our area here, and they took the engine from that particular car, converted it to alcohol, and said, let's put it into a non-wing sprint car and see how it performs. And it did perform. Certainly doesn't have the power that, the full-blown non-wing sprint cars have, for example, down in Indiana and so forth. But by golly, it's an affordable package, and the series was launched in 2011. We had about 6 cars the first year, so you're looking at, oh, gee, what was that? Well, we about doubled to tripled the next year, and last year in 2013, we ended up having about 20 cars to select from. The outlook for 2014, looking at about 24 or more available cars to select from. So that's our second series. That will begin its 4th season. Of course, the Wings will begin their 6th season, and then we have the 600cc micro sprint division. That was started a couple of years ago. It races specifically at one track and one track only on Friday nights at St. Croix Valley Raceway. They do race some indoor events at the Cedar Lake Speedway Indoor Arena, but those are not UMSS sanctioned events. And it's just in the early stages of formation here in our area. There's probably 8, 10, 12 cars grand total in the area, and we do pick up a few travelers from time to time coming in and racing with us. But it's just kind of an entry-level division, and Brian, it's doing what it was designed to do. A couple of kids, a two-time champion Ty Sampere is getting old enough, or will become old enough in August. He plans to move into a traditional sprint car, and another young kid that was in the series the first 2 years, Tony Durand out of South St. Paul, he's going to be old enough to race the traditional sprint car as well. So it's kind of sort of doing what it was designed to do, get the young kids interested, get them out on the track in a 600cc winged micro sprint, and then see if they have any kind of interest going forward, maybe a non-wing or eventually a wing sprint car.
As we talk about the history of UMSS, I'm kind of gandering across the website at wing.umsprints.com, and I'm looking at past champions of the Wing Series, and I'm going, wow, this is a who's who of future stars.
Absolutely. It's actually a kind of a composition, Brian, of some seasoned veterans that are racing with us, lots of experience in the wing division, and then some of the younger, I won't say necessarily call them all kids, because some of them have put in quite a number of years, but they're still young as far as racing is concerned. They got many years in front of them. But we have, a long-time racer, two-time champion of our series, well-known name in the sprint car racing world, Jerry Richard Jr. from the famous Richard Racing family out of Forest Lake, Minnesota. And on numerous occasions, at least in the past 2-3 years, when he's not racing elsewhere, for example, in the 410 sprint at Knoxville or somewhere around the area with the World of Outlaw sprint cars, Brooke Patno, Jerry Richards Jr.'s brother-in-law, jump in a 360 and race with us as well. So we've got some long established names, and we got last year's champion Chris Graff. Again, not a real young guy, but certainly not got the same number of years of experience that Jerry Richard Jr. does, for example. Chris is a very strong competitor out of Glencoe, Minnesota. He won our championship last year, plans to race maybe good 75-80% of our shows this year, do some more trips down to Knoxville Raceway on some Saturday nights, and take in a few ASCS regional events in 2014 as well. And go back to our very first series champion in 2009 in the wing division, Lee Thomas from Duluth, Minnesota. Lee's got a lot of years of racing experience. He had never really won a championship per se until that first year, and things fell into place, and by golly, Lee was our very first champion in 2009. We had a real young kid in the second year only behind the wheel of a sprint car, Cody Hahn out of Oak Grove, Minnesota, kind of toured on the World of Outlaws a little bit as a helper and mechanic. He certainly did not race with the World of Outlaws, but got some experience touring out there with them, and was originally kind of from the Sioux Falls area, came into the Twin City area here in Minnesota a number of years ago, and thought, boy, we don't have a lot for sprint car racing. Then along came UMSS. Cody was our Rookie of the Year in 2009, and in 2010, how it played out, come right down to the final few races of the season, Cody Hahn ended up winning our championship in 2010. Got a little stint a few years ago, or did a little stint a few years ago up at Grand Forks in the 410 division there at River City Speedway, and he's back with us last year full-time, finished third in our point standings last year, kind of looking to get his motor beefed up a little bit for this year, and according to Cody, hopefully make as many shows as he possibly can.
And I've seen Cody a few times, and I'll tell you, he's quite a dynamic driver, for as young as he is. And, I'm looking at the reach. I'm just absolutely blown away by the names and the locations of some of these people. You got drivers coming from Canada, Iowa, just almost a global reach of who wants to race with UMSS.
Yeah, our location in some respects hurts us, and then in some respects helps us as well. In other words, you don't have a lot of choices around here to race sprint cars, but when putting this series together, it certainly gave the drivers in this area and drivers from around the upper Midwest an area to come in or an opportunity, I should say, to come in and race with us. Whereas prior to 2009, after the sanctioning organization called WSOTA exited the 360 sprint car world back in about 2006-7 era, it was real sparse around our area here as far as sprint car racing was concerned, Brian. We had a few World of Outlaw shows, a few IRA shows, a couple miscellaneous shows. Of course, Jackson Speedway down in southern Minnesota has their weekly Saturday night program, but there just wasn't a lot going on. Now with the UMSS in existence and going strong, it's given the drivers in this area and then drivers from, as you say, from Canada, Lou Kennedy Jr. and Thomas Kennedy. They come down and raced on several occasions with us. Lee Gross from Harwood, North Dakota, was pretty much a regular at our races last year. We had several events where we picked up maybe a few South Dakota drivers, some Iowa drivers popped in, just on occasion. And so it certainly, and a number of different Wisconsin drivers. Scotty Thiel, a very talented young driver from over on the east side of Wisconsin. I've been racing with the MSA over there and doing a little bit of IRA sprint car racing. He comes over and he's won several of our races in the past couple of years. And that kid's got a lot of talent. And so, Brian, it's really given the drivers in this area and then just right around this area an opportunity to race and have a series that they can follow or at least pop in on occasion from time to time. And another name, and I mentioned it before, but boy, does he certainly help our series as far as name recognition, is Brooke Tatnall from Australia.
All right, Greg, speaking of Brooke Tatnall, we will revisit that after the break, and we'll also talk about a whole bunch more with the Upper Midwest Sprint Car Series with Greg Parent. I'm Brian Douglas on Getting Dirty Live, and this is the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
Extended lubricant, taking fuel performance to a new level. With the Gas Extender Plus Ethanol and Diesel Extender Plus Algae treatment, Extended has your engine covered. The Gas Extender Plus Ethanol treatment is an octane booster that also improves mileage. 1 ounce treats 5 gallons, making it a must-have for your gas-burning toys. The Diesel Extender Plus Algae treatment lubricates cylinders while cleaning and conditioning your fuel system. 1 ounce treats 10 gallons is a great way for your fleet to maintain and save money in one easy step. Worried about your sales force having to pioneer a new product? Well, don't be, because we have a plan to drive traffic to your store. Michael Vatter's Black Stallion, Iron Warrior, and Higher Education sport the extended decals, allowing you to penetrate this powerful market. Also, in 2013, Extended is teaming up with Pursuit Channel's 38 million viewers as they sponsor a block of high-quality outdoor programming on Dish and DirecTV. So climb on board and join the Extended team so you can offer this amazing product to your customer base today.
This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
And we're back on Getting Dirty Live. I'm Brian Douglas, your host. This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network. My guest this hour is the PR director from the Upper Midwest Sprint Series, Greg Parent. Greg, before we went to the break, you had mentioned one of the key drivers that brings name recognition to the UMSS was Brooke Tatnall. Now, tell me a little bit more.
It's huge having Brooke Tatnall at our races. I mean, fans absolutely love to see him there. They love when he goes and does driver autograph sessions or has an interview, by a local track announcer or something like that. And Brooke, by and large, has been very cooperative and very willing to do those types of things and try to help promote sprint car racing as a whole. And his name, and then, of course, the Richard family name from Jerry Richard Jr.'s father, Jerry Richard Sr., four-time IMC champion and one of the top runners throughout the Upper Midwest region back in his days in the 60s and 70s. I mean, that name is synonymous with sprint car racing for decades upon decades, and you throw those names in there along with some of our young kids and upcoming talent and the experienced and veteran drivers like Tony Norum from Dassel, Minnesota. Tony's raced at Knoxville. He's raced sprint cars. He's raced just about everything that has wheels on it, but there's another good hard charger, and he races quite a bit with our series. But yeah, for sure having Brooke Tatnall pop in and out of our series, he certainly doesn't race full-time with us, but he races a number of shows each year with us, and he is, to no one's surprise, the overall series leader with 29 career feature victories in UMSS competition.
Yeah, I mean, that just stands out. Some of the other names I recognize in here that are fairly well household names. Davey Heskin.
Yes, Davey runs with us primarily on Friday nights because Davey's got his regular ride that he goes win the 410 division at Knoxville Raceway every Saturday night, and then runs, of course, when the Outlaws or IRA are in the area and his schedule permits. But oftentimes on Friday nights, Davey doesn't have any 410 sprint car racing going on, and so he'll jump into the number 91 Donahue Motorsports car, which is a local 360 car with help from Ron Olson and that. And by golly, that's a very competitive car, and Davey does extremely well, and he'll readily admit that he's especially looking to gain some additional experience on some of these short tracks that we race on. Say, for example, a Friday night at St. Croix Valley Raceway, the little quarter-mile track there. Davey's got a lot of large track experience, but lesser amount of real short track experience, and he's looking to gain additional knowledge on setups and gain experience out on some of the smaller tracks that our series tends to race on. So yeah, he certainly pops in and out several times during the season with us, and especially on Friday nights.
And another invader that stands out in your win list from a career win list is Scott Winters.
Yes, Scott has been just an occasional competitor with us. I mean, he's come in on just a few occasions. He certainly has done well when he has indeed run with us. And, of course, Scott's name is no stranger whatsoever to sprint car racing. His father, Kent Winters, used to run weekly at Cedar Lake Speedway back in the 1990s and was a track champion at one point in time back then at the Cedar Lake Speedway. And Scott has had great success as well at the Cedar Lake Speedway and with our series and in the times that he has run with us. But he does not run with us on a regular basis. But again, on occasion, he does join in with us. And most of the time when he does, he is, as to no one's surprise, he's very competitive.
You would almost look at the list of career wins. You'd look at your Sportsmanship Award winners, your Rookies of the Year, and your past champions, and you'd say this is a championship training sanction where future champions are basically made.
Absolutely, Brian, and that was really the intent of it from the beginning. It's by no means ever going to become a large regional series. Anything. Not to be completely honest, it will basically stay in this area, what it was designed for, essentially in the state of Minnesota, west central Wisconsin, and for the very first time this year in 2014, we're going to venture just down below the border in Iowa at Howard County Fairgrounds in Cresco, Iowa, for our very first ever UMSS race in the state of Iowa. And eventually we may make it up onto the fringe in North or South Dakota, but those plans certainly would be down the road a ways. And we are developing, as you said, some young talent, getting them the seat time that they need in our area here without having to travel great distances. And there's going to very likely a few of those young guys, as they gain additional experience and talent racing with us, they will very possibly move on to bigger and better things, whether that means a ride in the IRA Regional Series, 410 Touring Series, or maybe up at Grand Forks down in Knoxville on Saturday nights. And obviously the ultimate goal for some of the young kids, as they have told me on numerous occasions, and many of it might be just dreaming, but by golly, their dreams do come true on occasion, Brian, and someday you may find or see their name with the World of Outlaws. It's never say never type situation there.
Yeah, and with the World of Outlaws, it's just a matter of the right sponsor and the right team coming in. As you kind of hinted to on the schedule here, I'm just looking down the schedule. Let's kind of briefly just kind of touch on where the tour stops are this year on the wing schedule.
Certainly, in 2014, again, it's a schedule similar to what we had in 2013. We're going to begin our season, weather, of course, permitting. Last year, we tried to do that on the first weekend in May, and Mother Nature threw us a real curveball and snowed about 3-4 inches on us at Elko Speedway, and so that we weren't actually able to begin our season last year till the end of May, which was everybody was really chomping at the bit then. But this year, we'll try once again on Friday, May 2nd, out at. I don't necessarily want to say it's a home track because the Wing Series really doesn't have one. They tour around, but it's the track that the Wing cars run the most at. And they'll make 6 appearances at the St. Croix Valley Raceway out near St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. And their first one is scheduled for Friday, May 2nd. And then we come right back on Saturday night, May 3rd at the Cedar Lake Speedway, about 30-minute drive south there. We'll try for our 6th annual Spring Sprint Car Special. Believe me, Brian, I think probably 4 out of the 6 or so have been rained out, Mother Nature, or snowed out for that matter. And so we'll give it a try on that weekend, May 2nd and 3rd, and see if we can kick our season into gear with some nice weather. Cooperation from Mother Nature would certainly be more than appreciated. And we also, of course, have the concern here in our area with snow on the ground still in many places and frost in the ground that, 1 month from now, we're certainly hopeful that the weather will improve, frost will come out, and the tracks will be actually, the facilities will actually be able to prepare their tracks to have racing on. And then the series just kind of rolls on down the road from there. On Saturday, May 17, where we make a standalone stop at North Central Speedway, a track that we've raced numerous times on since the series first got going in 2009. They're just going to give it a try, a standalone show in the middle of May, early on in the season, and see how that goes. So we're certainly looking forward to being at North Central again. We come back on the lead into the big Memorial Day holiday weekend there for the 3rd annual Davy Tabor Memorial at St. Croix Valley Raceway. And next night we go right over to the Rice Lake Speedway, maybe 30-40 minute drive, pretty much just east of St. Croix Valley Raceway, and for what we call the Double Dare Sprint Special, because the non-wing traditional Sprint Car Series races along with the wings at Rice Lake on Saturday night, May 24th. Then we begin kind of a early month right away on Sunday, June 1st. There we start off at Granite City Speedway. That's up in Sauk Rapids, Minnesota, just outside of St. Cloud, for our 3rd annual appearance there at Granite City Speedway. We've been there in July a couple times. We decided to move it up, maybe get just a little bit better overall track conditions rather than being so darn hot in July when we've been there before. And so we moved that event up. Then we come up on Friday, June 6th, Saturday, June 7th. It's been on the schedule for a number of years now. Very prestigious night on Friday, June 6th at the Princeton Speedway for the 13th annual Billy Anderson Memorial. And that event has been held at both. It started at the Cedar Lake Speedway and has transitioned to the Princeton Speedway in recent years. And if you were to look at the past winner list of that event, it's a who's who in upper Midwest area sprint car racing. And we come right back the next night at Ogilvie Raceway, big old sprint showdown there. And that is a very fast 3/8 mile, relatively high bank track. And I'll tell you, Tony Norm loves racing at Ogilvie. He's been very successful. You run right up next to the concrete wall there, and Norm literally bumps up against the wall, and he's told me on more than one occasion. A couple times I've tried to knock it down, but he said they built a pretty good wall here.
Something about Ogilvie, I've run on it twice in my long, and I've been doing it for a long time. I've run out there twice, and both times in a mod, and I swear that wall comes up so fast. But it's a track you can literally hold the hammer to the floor almost all the way around.
You can. It's generally smooth and gets black. A number of our, I don't want to say slower cars, but maybe less experienced drivers, they'll run around the black on the bottom, and then the guys with the experience, they'll be right up against the wall, and usually there's a very skinny, thin little cushion left right up against the concrete wall. And Tony Norm is right. Literally, you can bounce your right rear tire off that concrete wall on several occasions, and you better not get into it too hard or you might be on your lid. And Chris Graff, Jerry Richard Jr., a couple other others with lots of experience, they like to run right up next to the wall there. And along with Brooke Tatno when he makes an appearance up there and so forth. Those are the kind of drivers. They're right up next to the wall, and then you got the lesser experienced or the ones without as much horsepower. They're running down on the black, and some nights as the feature event wears on, it gets blackened up enough on the bottom that some of those cars will get going, and then you can see a couple of cars surprise some of those guys by running extremely well down on the bottom there.
Yeah, and with Ogilvie, seating is for the fans is a premium, but they got a really nice indoor concession stand area.
Yes, they do.
And pits are the pits at the track are just enormous.
They're big and spacious. They're located outside the track. The sprint cars usually are in the outer pit area out near Highway 23, right off of the highway there. And it gives a bit of an open push-off area in the outer pits, whereas all the rest of the stock cars, a good share of the stock cars anyways, are in the inner pit area, and which is still located outside the track. But when having the sprint cars out there, and there's probably just a few modifieds and a couple Hornets and a few other cars that are scattered out there, that gives us an area at Ogilvie Raceway raceway to have a little bit of a push-off area so the guys can warm their engines up in the pits prior to race time.
And that's an exciting show to, if you've never been to Ogilvie, definitely you need to make that June 7th race at Ogilvie, because no matter what's on the track out there, it's exciting. I mean, you look at it and the way the cars diamond off before, you'd swear that that they were going to take the wall with them, and somehow they don't.
Well, Brian, it's one of the faster tracks that we race on. It's certainly not the fastest one we race on, but definitely one of the faster ones. And you talk to the guys in the pit area, and they'll pretty much tell you it's a momentum track. You've got to keep your momentum up, or you can find yourself losing ground in a hurry there.
Exactly. And as we go highlight the schedule on the way down past June 7th, what else you got for us?
Well, we take a couple weekends off then. There's a couple big events in the world. All of us come in the area for that matter. On one of the weekends, there's a big event at a local track here. And so we just take a couple weekends off, and then we come back on Thursday night, a rare Thursday. We just have 2 Thursday night shows on our wing schedule this year. And one of them will be our very first appearance ever in the state of Iowa at the Cresco Speedway in Cresco, Iowa, at the Howard County Fairgrounds there. It is a county fair race. I'm told that they usually draw a pretty good-sized crowd that night for their racing event. And this year, the UMSS Sprints have been invited to participate on Thursday night, June 26th. It'll be a full-point show. We have a little bit of work to do, make sure we get an adequate field of cars there. And one that might possibly help us, because right now at this point in time, we don't have any show scheduled on Friday, June 27th. It's to be determined. I don't think there is going to be any show scheduled, but over at Rapid Speedway in Rock Rapids, Iowa, basically just a straight line across from Cresco over on the other side of the state there, they have a big sprint car show on that Friday night. So some of our teams very likely, or at least they have the possibility, they could travel over there and participate in that show. And so we're kind of hoping that, with our show at Cresco and then a big show over there at Rock Rapids, between the two of them, maybe we'll get a few cars to come over to ours, and a few of our cars will come over to theirs, and then kind of make it a weekend there.
Yeah, I mean, where it's a possibility where, if you made the right phone call and Mr. Burhagen was able to create that dialogue, you might actually get a Invader Challenge Series.
It's possible. I mean, one never knows for sure what might develop going forward, but Ron certainly is in contact with numerous different tracks, promoters, and series as well. Okay. And so it's something that he's always looking to see if we can become a part of a certain one, or if there's a track maybe that's a little bit further away. And usually sometimes if it gets too far away, you're looking at a couple of tracks to make it worthwhile. In this case, we are going south a little further than we normally do to Cresco, but I think with the circumstances the way they are, I think it'll give teams a chance to go over if they want to run at Rock Rapids. And quite frankly, if they want to, they on Saturdays, Jackson Speedway, Jackson, Minnesota would have a Saturday night race that weekend as well. So it gives them a couple of opportunities, maybe kicking off on that Thursday and then finishing on Friday, Saturday elsewhere.
And with that Jackson race scheduled, you might actually see 2-3 different sanctions of cars there.
Yeah, Jackson can draw in, ASCS type sprints, and they'll draw in from possibly, depending on who's racing and who's actually available to come to their track. But they could certainly see a variety of different cars there from time to time. Very quickly, will be our fourth appearance on the big July 4th weekend up north at Hibbing Raceway. It'll be the fourth appearance up there. Third appearance at the Proctor Speedway. Last year we were fogged out at Proctor. Yeah, you don't always get rained out at a race. When you go to Proctor, you could actually get fogged out because it's right on top of the hill from Lake Superior. And if the wind's the wrong direction, you might not be able to see much of anything. And by golly, we were fogged out there last year. Did make it up in the month of August under really nice weather conditions then. But we have that big weekend, and I want to put a plug in there for a real big third annual Open Wheel Nationals. Has been moved from the last weekend in June to Friday and Saturday, July 11, 12. That's right out at St. Croix Valley Raceway. Last year, the event paid $5,000 to win. That young driver from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, I mentioned earlier, Scotty Thiel, found himself sitting in Victory Lane on Saturday night, taking home the big $5,000 payday. I'm not sure exactly how they're structuring it this year. There's going to be 2 full independent, complete shows each night, and I think they're not going to pay it all on Saturday to when they're going to break it up and smooth it out a little bit more. But I haven't received final details on that. That's a big weekend for us, Friday and Saturday, July 11 and 12. And then actually closing out July, we got our second annual UMSS, Dan Graham's Memorial. Davey Heston won that event last year out at St. Croix Valley Raceway on Friday night. And then we finish up with our Summer Sprint Car Classic at Cedar Lake Speedway on July 26th. Then in August, as we move through, we got a second date at Ogilvie on August 9th. That presents a little conflict for me personally because since 1978, I have attended the Knoxville Nationals, and that is, of course, the most premier, greatest sprint car event in the entire world. So that's a UMSS event that night that I will not be at Ogilvie. I will, of course, be at Knoxville for the Knoxville Nationals. But Ron had a chance because many of our drivers do not, of course, participate in the Knoxville Nationals. Ogilvie had an opportunity to bring us there, and so we've done well. A couple years ago, they did race on that weekend and drew a good crowd and a good field of cars at St. Croix Valley. So we'll see how it goes at Ogilvie.
And Ogilvie, that August date in Ogilvie is right after the 360 National. So
yes, it is.
So there's an opportunity for some big name talent to arrive there, and maybe some other, like I said, some of the Iowa Sprint Invaders, some of the IRA guys. I mean, several different 360 groups could definitely show up. All right, Greg, thanks. Hold that thought about the Knoxville Nationals. We'll come back and talk about that in just a moment. Time now for station break. This is Getting Dirty Live on the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
Need energy? Try Liquid Nitro Energy drinks with 3 awesome flavors and no bull. That's right, no bad aftertaste, no crash, no bull. We checked out all the other energy drinks, and Liquid Nitro has half the sugar of the other major brands' regular energy drinks. It has a great taste and no bull. You say nobody stocks Liquid Nitro in your area? Go to nitrobeverages.com and you'll find a complete list of distributors near you. To become a distributor, contact Randy at Dirt Tracking Southern Style for more information. Liquid Nitro is absolutely the most consistent energy drink on the market today. It's Liquid Nitro Regular, Liquid Nitro Herbal, Liquid Nitro Tropical Storm, and don't forget, we also make Liquid Nitro Energy Shooters. Real energy, and again, no bull. For everything you need to know about Liquid Nitro Energy, log on to nitrobeverages.com, or you can find us at your retailer or Speedway outlet.
Extended lubricant, taking fuel performance to a new level. With the Gas Extender Plus Ethanol and Diesel Extender Plus Algae treatment, Extended has your engine covered. The Gas Extender Plus Ethanol treatment is an octane booster that also improves mileage. 1 ounce treats 5 gallons, making it a must-have for your gas-burning toys. The Diesel Extender Plus Algae treatment lubricates cylinders while cleaning and conditioning your fuel system. 1 ounce treats 10 gallons and is a great way for your fleets to maintain and save money in one easy step. Worried about your sales force having to pioneer a new product? Well, don't be, because we have a plan to drive traffic to your store. Michael Waters, Black Stallion, Iron Warrior, and Higher Education sport the Extended decals, allowing you to penetrate this powerful market. Also, in 2013, Extended is teaming up with Pursuit Channel's 38 million viewers as they sponsor a block of high-quality outdoor programming on Dish and DirecTV. So climb on board and join the Extended team so you can offer this amazing product to your customer base today.
Just when you thought it was safe to talk racing on internet radio.
Getting Dirty Live.
He says, well, I looked at a sponsor and I just needed somebody to help me with my tires. And I just said, you're willing to talk to somebody about putting together a package for you and all you want is tire money? I mean, come on now. You're just basically embarrassed your sponsor. The problem was they did not want to listen to me. They were willing to give me a card, a shirt, a truck. They were willing to give me everything, but they wouldn't listen to me. So I can tell you guys this. It was like dealing with a high-maintenance blonde that I just didn't really want to deal with. I mean, she's pretty to look at, but I'll say, it ain't going to happen. You know what I mean? Because it's just not, it just didn't interest me at all.
If you think this is fun, tune in every Thursday night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, right here on the Midwest Racing Radio Network, where we're getting dirty live.
This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network.
Welcome back to Getting Dirty Live. I'm Brian Douglas. This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network. Want to thank you for listening. My guest today is Greg Parent, the Upper Midwest Sprint Series PR Director. We've been talking about all things Wisconsin, Minnesota, Southern Minnesota sprint cars, and the UMSS has 3 sanctions. Now, Greg, getting back to the rest of the schedule, can you fill us in on where that goes?
As we work our way through August there, we have a big 3-race series, and it's the same as last year. Thursday, August 14, Friday, August 15, Saturday, August 16. We're out at Wilmer, Minnesota at KRA Speedway on Thursday night. That's the first 2 years we were out there. Brooke Tatnall has won both of those events. Thursday, again, usually nothing going on there. He makes that show and wins it. And then Friday, we're at Princeton Speedway for night number 1 of the Kuba Memorial. This will be the 22nd annual Kuba Memorial, Earl and Ethel Kuba Memorial. Huge weekend. Princeton holds night number 1. Then we go Saturday, August 16, Saturday night to St. Croix Valley Raceway. Normally they run on Fridays, but they take the 15th off, come back on Saturday for night number 2 of the Kuba Memorial. Kuba family does a great job securing additional sponsorship and money into the purse. It's usually our best paying race of the season. And that's a hugely popular event. We draw a good field of cars. As I mentioned last year, Brooke Tatnall won all 3 races, in fact, because Knoxville Raceway does not race the Saturday after the Nationals. So he's usually up around this area, and some of the tougher guys try to come in and meet him, and he turns them aside, and he did a 3-race sweep there last year on that weekend. Then we come back to the event that you mentioned a while ago for our second ever appearance, second annual, I should say, or second ever for that matter, Saturday, August 23 at the big Douglas County Fairgrounds Viking Speedway in Alexandria, Minnesota. There's some speed on that track there, Brian. And last year, Lee Gross, who's no stranger to racing at Viking, showed the boys the quick way around. We did have a very good feature race there. We had 4 different leaders. They were doing some slide jobs in the corners, of course, with those high rates of speed. That can be exciting for the fans. And overall, we had a good field of cars there. I know it was like 98 degrees and windy, so there wasn't a lot of moisture in the track at the end of the night there.
Yeah, dry, slick, and dusty.
Yeah, not really too bad as far as dust at all that particular night. They kept after it, but it had blackened up, but it was fast. Viking is always fast, whether there's a little tack in it or it's smooth and dry slick. It is fast, and some of our younger drivers who hadn't raced on a half mile before, they got their eyes opened up a little bit there at the big fast Viking Speedway.
I've been on Viking, back when I was racing. Well, I mean, literally 2 seasons every night of the week, and the only problem is this brings us back, and as you know, Greg, my family kind of grew up at West Fargo, Viking, Grand Forks.
Right, and there were two of those tracks were monstrously big in size.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't uncommon to, for a late model to pop 100 miles an hour and down, at the end of the straightaway. So
right, both at the fairgrounds at West Fargo when it was a big half mile and at Vikings big half mile, those are speed tracks, no doubt about it. You keep a lot of momentum, you carry a lot of speed through the corners, you fly down the straightaway, and even though the straightaways were a bit long, before you know it, you're in the corner again.
Exactly, and before you know it, you're back out on the straightaway again.
Right, and so we're very much looking forward. That's our only half-mile track on our wing schedule, and we're very much looking forward for our second appearance there at the Viking Speedway on Saturday, August 23rd. Then, Brian, we move on to Labor Day weekend at an annual event that we've participated at ever since our existence back in 2009. It's the Mighty Axe Nationals. This year will be the 13th annual edition, 2-night show at North Central Speedway, Brainerd, Minnesota. Saturday, August 30, Sunday, August 31. That track is small, not a lot of banking to it. A few years ago, basically, you'd say, it was a dry slick, hard to pass on. But they've moved us up in the program the past few years, so we're about the second feature on the track each night, and they've reworked the track. And we've put on pretty darn good show in the last 2 years there at Viking. That's a track that our defending series champion, Chris Graff, does very well at. Jerry Richard Jr. runs well there. When Scotty Thiel from the east side of Wisconsin comes over, he's won a couple of races there. So North Central Speedway has certainly stepped it up, moved us up in the program, and we put on some pretty good shows there the last couple of years at the little third-mile oval there at the North Central Speedway.
Yeah, and with North Central Speedway, on those dates, I mean, with the Mighty Axe, you're looking at you're looking at a full support show, from the Wissota cars that are there. And, a nice little 3rd mile bull ring, semi-bank bull ring, but it's definitely quite the track to race at.
Yes, it is. And now that they moved us up in the program, we have had some very good feature races there the past couple of years. And I look forward for much of the same. I think we've kind of hit on a formula. Don't put us way at the tail end when the track is all used up. And so it's worked very well for us. Last year, many race fans may have heard, or if you were there, experienced the rain delay on Saturday night. And our feature, which was the second one on the track, because they kept going after the rain delay. They worked the track back in. It was a long delay. Our feature took the green flag a little bit before 1 a.m. in the morning. Wow. And so we were done, and our feature went through relatively quick, but the Advantage RV Mod Tour, the Wissota Modifieds, were the final feature on the track, and they did not receive their checkered flag until nearly 4 a.m. in the morning.
Oh,
so
wow.
That was one of those historic events that you'll talk about if you were there, or if you weren't there, you'll say, what kind of craziness was that? They raced until 4 a.m. in the morning. Well, it was Saturday of Labor Day weekend. They probably wouldn't have got by with it at most of the other time. But like Cliff Sasker, track owner, told me, the following night after we had, or I should say later on in the day, because on Sunday night we were right back there racing again. He said, Greg, we had everything all ready to go. We didn't want to, cancel the show. He said we were able to rework the track. He said, I know it took a while, but he said, I knew we hadn't lost it entirely. And he said, I just wanted to complete it. And then, Brian, what they did, and probably the most notable thing that people talked about, not just the time that racing event ended, shortly before 4, they shot up a big round of fireworks. And I said, Cliff, did you get in trouble for that? He said, I had paid my permit fee, and it was good for like a 24 or 48-hour period. He said, I wasn't going to blow it. He said, we had all those fireworks purchased, so he said, we shot them up.
Yeah, and the thing is considering where the track is located on one side of town, and then the Brainerd Lakes are on the north side of town. I mean, the longest race I've ever known to go to ended at 2 a.m. with the World of Outlaws in West Fargo at the Red River Valley Speedway. And
yes, and I was at that event that ended at 2 a.m., so that had previously been one of my longest evenings. But last year, Brian, North Central Speedway at the Mighty Axe Nationals, they set a new personal record for me on how late we got done.
Okay, and let's transition on to the traditional sprint car series.
Okay, we'll certainly do that. I just want to make mention that we do wrap our wing season up at one of the most prestigious events on the schedule. Again, Cooper Memorial is one of the big events. Well, we conclude our season Saturday, September 6th at the Cedar Lake Speedway with the 14th annual Jerry Richards Sr. Memorial, and that includes the IRA 410 Outlaw Sprints, too. That is one heck of a event. It is absolute must-see if you're a sprint car fan. If you haven't been there, I highly encourage you to make plans, put it on your schedule, because that event is just one heck of a night of sprint car racing. And that's when we wrap up our season in the wing division. Our point champion is crowned on that particular night, and our season concludes. But what a way to send to conclude the season and send everybody home for the fall and winter months there with the Richard Memorial.
All right, now moving on to the UMSS traditional sprint car series. Explain a little bit how that works out.
Okay, that was, as I said, we got that going back in 2011, so we've had 3 full seasons. That, as I mentioned earlier in our interview here, it's essentially the engine package that was in place from the beginning, of course, is still there now. It was a B-Mod or Midwest Mod motor converted to alcohol, and it's worked very, very well. The sprint cars, it certainly is not necessarily an engine that you'd want to take to a track like Viking Speedway, for example. But on these small tracks that we run the non-wing sprint, that engine package works extremely well. A good share of their races are at St. Croix Valley Raceway, and they're very competitive cars. very seldom. I'm not saying it never happens, but very seldom does somebody run away and hide. Sometimes you'll see that in wing sprint car racing, whether it's 410 or 360, a car will disappear up front and hide from everybody. But in the non-wings, that doesn't happen very often at all. It's usually pretty competitive. Oftentimes, Brian, you'll see 2, sometimes 3. And if the track is just right at St. Croix Valley, I've seen them as much as 4 wide there. And it can provide some very entertaining, very exciting racing. And if you're a traditional, that's what we named the series, Traditional Sprint Car Series. If you're a traditional sprint car fan and go back in the sport a ways, or have been elsewhere in the United States where they have this type of racing, it is very fun to watch. Can be very exciting, very thrilling. Doesn't take too much to hop a wheel, well, in any form of open wheel racing for that matter. But these guys, they don't have that big wing overhead to protect them when they take a tumble.
All right, and as we move on, the last class that the UMSS has under their umbrella is pretty much a home track class at St. Croix Valley, and that's the UMSS Micro Sprint League. Can you tell me a little bit about how that got started and what basically they consist of?
Yeah, well, about 3 years ago, back before Ron Bernhagen and Rick Mastel purchased St. Croix Valley Raceway and actually changed the name from Capella Speedway, we were trying to get a micro sprint class going, and there's like 2-3 cars, but it was kind of loosely put together, and the cars were invited to come out and run some, couple nights during the season and have a couple races, just kind of exhibition. And then 2 years ago, back in 2012, we decided, actually in the fall of 2011, let's develop a third division and actually have a sanctioned, actual third division 600cc winged micro sprints. And I have to be honest, if it wasn't for Eddie Samper at Somerset Auto Salvage owning probably at least half of the cars or more that are out there on any given night and giving a variety of drivers an opportunity to race in his cars, that division may never have really gotten off the ground. But we don't necessarily draw a large field of cars. It is, as you mentioned, they do race exclusively at St. Croix Valley Raceway on Friday nights. They don't travel anywhere else under the UMSS banner, although they do, as I mentioned earlier, get several shows on the Cedar Lake Speedway indoor arena on the small oval that's inside there. But it's a division that we're committed to. It's not terribly expensive. Basically, they're Honda or Suzuki type, Kawasaki type engines in those cars, a variety of different chassis manufacturers. And I've been told, I certainly haven't delved into it, but you may be able to confirm this, that you could put a competitive car, maybe not a top notch by any stretch of the imagination, but one that you could be competitive in out of that little track at St. Croix Valley there for maybe around $10,000.
That sounds about right. 10 to 14 grand, depending on depending on how competitive you want to be. But
right, and that would equate over to the traditional sprint car series, where a number of our competitors have approximately $10,000 invested in their traditional sprint car, unlike the Wing 360, where you'd have multiples of 10, as far as investing in that type of car.
And some of the names that you see in here are, as this is an entry-level class by all definitions, but there's definitely some young faces, some young names, some older faces. You got Brian Patrick and Grant McIntosh. And then, of course, you got the young faces like Tony Duran and Allison Berger and Colin Olson and Ty Samper.
Yes, a lot of mostly younger kids, but Grant McIntosh does pull down 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe half a dozen times all the way from Thunder Bay, and it's usually the weekends that the indoor arena at Cedar Lake is hosting micro sprints, like on a Saturday afternoon. He'll come down, race at St. Croix Valley on Friday night, and then go there on Saturday afternoon, so he's got a double header for the weekend. And sometimes he'll bring a partner with him from Thunder Bay, and then we'll have a couple of cars down, and so it certainly adds to the program. And then a name that sprint car racing fans, many at least in this area, and for sure the Sioux Falls area, would be very familiar with is the hearing impaired or deaf driver Greg Gunderson. He's been in a micro sprint last year and will be again this year, and he came in on several occasions last year, and he does bring a following of his fans out to the track each night that he makes an appearance in our area, and it's just an overall fun event for those people, and he's very competitive. Usually if he's in the house, there's a pretty good chance his car is going to sit in victory lane.
Now, for some of us older, I say older, I'm I haven't been quite, around the track as many times as you have, but Grant McIntosh from Thunder Bay sounds very, very familiar.
Well, there would be the McIntosh family. Back in the 1970s, Lynn McIntosh raced the Thunder Bay Invader number 5 not-wing sprint car with the MSA. And Lynn was very competitive, won several races, did not win, the outright championship. I think he won a Northern Division championship one year. But nonetheless, I mean, he was a very solid, very strong driver. But then near the end of the 70s, into the early part of the 1980s, Lynn McIntosh moved down into Indiana, continued his racing. Then his son, his first name's eluding me right now, took over racing the family operation down in Indiana there. And Grant, which I believe, and I don't want to be quoted on this, but I believe he was a brother. I believe Grant's not a spring chicken anymore by any stretch. He's involved in the microsprint now. So, yeah, the McIntosh name from Thunder Bay is certainly a well-known racing name, and it's kind of fun when Grant does come down and then brings his micro down to race with us on any given weekend.
Yeah, I mean, there's something for everybody in the UMSS. And any final thoughts that you want to get?
Well, once again, Brian, we're very much looking forward to, again, it will be our 6th season with the wing division, our 4th with the non-wing traditional sprint cars, and our 3rd with the micro sprints. Basically, based in and around the Twin City metropolitan area in Minnesota. As you can see from discussing our schedule, we do travel out to several different tracks in Minnesota with our wing series, and we're over in West Central Wisconsin. Looking forward again to making our first Iowa appearance with the wing cars, and generally just trying to grow the series a little bit. It's not ever intended to grow into large regional traveling series. It's for the drivers and the fans, the weekend racers, basically, I think is the best way I can put it.
And, I mean, it's very easy to catch a UMSS show just about, at any of the tour stops at all 3 levels. It's a very good thing to make it you take your people schedule their summer vacations. Hey, let's go racing. Let's go to the lakes in Wisconsin or Minnesota or whatever, and we'll take in a sprint car race for 2 nights.
Absolutely. We certainly do pride ourselves on trying to be family-oriented. I mean, we do have autograph sessions for the kids at our winged events. They're extremely popular. We do that at the tracks, Brian, where it's conducive. In other words, where it works well, where you can get the drivers in front of the crowd there with, logistically speaking. And there's several speedways where it works very well. Ogilvy's one of them, for example, works very well at a track like that. And with respect to where the pits are located, where the stands are located, and so forth. And those are extremely popular with the kids, and many of our drivers do participate. Driver handout cards, autographed T-shirts, caps, and so on, so forth. Sometimes we have a live portable mic. We'll interview some of them down there, and occasionally a few of them will tell some funny jokes or interact with the crowd. So it's a family-oriented event, and when you go to UMSS Sprint Car Race.
And Greg, one final question. I'm going to give you a chance to plug your series sponsors. Go ahead and tell us who backs the UMSS in this 2014 season.
Well, some of one of the main sponsors right from the beginning is Hoosier Racing Tire. That is our series tire, and they have been a sponsor from the very beginning. Hoosier Racing Tire North, located up in Rogers, Minnesota. There, Pat and Patsy Willis, they have certainly been behind us from day one. If you're an old timer in this sport, Pat Willis used to race a sprint car, so no surprise there that they've been backers. We have myself, actually, through GRP Motorsports, is actually the primary series sponsor, and that's just me personally. I paid a point fund in the winged and the non-winged division, add money into the purses, and I think I sponsored on about a dozen or more different cars last season as far as winged and non-winged cars were concerned. Might have been more than 12. I never really count them, Brian. But that's just me personally, GRP Motorsports. And then we have coming on this year, we have Rock Auto coming on as a new sponsor. We have Anderson's Maple Syrup coming on as a new sponsor. We have a couple other sponsors that have certainly helped out over the years. It's not like some of your big where you could probably read off a list of 20, 30, 40, 50 different sponsors, many different contingency sponsors. The UMSS doesn't have that, and isn't necessarily seeking to gain a huge number of those. We're always looking for additional sponsorship opportunities, but I know some series, Brian, you could probably spend half of your show reading off the list of sponsors that are involved with their programs.
Exactly. Greg Parent, the PR director from the Upper Midwest Sprint Car Series. Greg, thanks a lot for joining us on Getting Dirty Live. In the past hour, this is a show in itself. And I really appreciate and I want to thank you for joining me on Getting Dirty Live.
Thank you very much, Brian. I know I have been known or been kidded by many of the drivers to have been a little bit windy in the past when I'm doing like interviews in the pits for our little local inside the UMSS, for video purposes and stuff like that. Or if once in a great while I manage to get a hold of a microphone up in the tower when I'm assisting up there, sometimes they can't shut me up. So it's certainly been a pleasure to visit with you this evening.
But the thing is there's so much to know about UMSS, and we got it all in a nutshell in an hour in one whole show. And again, I would encourage people wanting more information, visit our website, umsprints.com. We've got in the rules and form section and PDF files, Brian, there is a boatload of information in there, and you can poke around the site in other areas to find pictures and articles and so on and so forth. All right. I appreciate having you, Greg Parent, and we look forward to bringing you back mid-season for an update from the Midwest Sprint Car Series.
I look forward to it, Brian. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Greg Parent. And Greg Parent is the PR director for the Upper Midwest Sprint Car Series. Definitely a pleasure talking with him over the last hour right here on Getting Dirty Live on the Midwest Racing Radio Network. A couple of items of housekeeping that we're going to take care of here before we leave. We are searching for advertisers right here on Midwest Racing Radio. If you want to become an advertiser, drop us an email at midwestracingradio@gmail.com. We'll be more than happy to give you all the information, or you can find that information on our website at midwestracingradio.network.weebly.com. We will definitely take care of you. Also, if you are a programming manager of a commercial radio station, we would be more than happy to talk to you about carrying Midwest Racing Radio in a radio format. You can also give us a contact at midwestracingradio@gmail.com. Coming soon, if you have any guest suggestions, any of you listeners have any guest suggestions that we should have, or you're a driver seeking promotion, we'd be interested in talking to you. We are also willing to talk to station representatives and track promoters if you want to be a part of this show. Get your message out to your fans or potential fans from across the United States and around the world right here on the Midwest Racing Radio Network. We'd be more than happy to get that to you. Again, you can get a hold of us at the Midwest Racing Radio Network. We are live on the Midwest Racing Radio Network.weebly.com website, and that's every Thursday at 7 o'clock Central, and hopefully you will come and join us because we definitely want to hear from you. You can also catch us on our Facebook page, and that's facebook.com/Midwest Racing Radio. I'm Brian Douglas. This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network. Until then, next week we'll see you on the internet. This is Getting Dirty Live from the Midwest Racing Radio Network. Just when you thought it was safe to talk racing on internet radio.
Getting Dirty Live.
He says, well, I looked at a sponsor and I just needed somebody to help me with my tires. And I just said, you're willing to talk to somebody about putting together a package for you, and all you want is tire money? I mean, come on now. You're just basically embarrassed your sponsor. The problem was, they did not want to listen to me. They were willing to give me a card, a shirt, a truck. They were willing to give me everything, but they wouldn't listen to me. So I can tell you guys this. It was like dealing with a high-maintenance blonde that I just didn't really want to deal with. I mean, she's pretty to look at, but I'll say, it ain't going to happen. You know what I mean? Because it's just not, it just didn't interest me at all.
If you think this is fun, tune in every Thursday night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, right here on the Midwest Racing Radio Network, where we're getting dirty live.
Extended lubricant, taking fuel performance to a new level. With the Gas Extender Plus Ethanol and Diesel Extender Plus Algae treatment, Extended has your engine covered. The Gas Extender Plus Ethanol treatment is an octane booster that also improves mileage. 1 ounce treats 5 gallons, making it a must-have for your gas-burning toys. The Diesel Extender Plus Algae treatment lubricates cylinders while cleaning and conditioning your fuel system. 1 ounce treats 10 gallons is a great way for your fleet to maintain and save money in one easy step. Worried about your sales force having to pioneer a new product? Well, don't be, because we have a plan to drive traffic to your store. Michael Vatter's Black Stallion, Iron Warrior, and Higher Education sport the extended decals, allowing you to penetrate this powerful market. Also, in 2013, Extended is teaming up with Pursuit Channel's 38 million viewers as they sponsor a block of high-quality outdoor programming on Dish and DirecTV. So climb on board and join the Extended team so you can offer this amazing product to your customer base today.
This is the Midwest Racing Radio Network.